Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're out at the range with a brand new product from CMMG. It's called the Dissent, and it's offered in 5.56 and 300 Blackout. But if you're going to go with a pistol like this, which is the only way they currently offer them, I would definitely go 300 Blackout. So this gun has a lot of really cool features. So you'll know already if you watch the channel, I've become a huge fan of rifles like the Sig Spear LT. But I'm also a big fan of direct gas impingement of the original Eugene Stoner design of the AR-15 M16. And this gun marries the qualities of both of those designs into a new firearm that we're pretty darn impressed with, and that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. We're going to talk about the history of the design, show you what it looks like next to a Sig Rattler, talk about some of the changes, break it completely down, show you everything we possibly can about it. And I think at the end of the video, you're probably going to agree with us, this thing is pretty darn neat. A lot of folks ask me, how can I get involved in the firearms business in that particular community? And one of the best ways to do that is to become a gunsmith. Every gunsmith I know is just overbooked with work. It's a very good living. And so if you would like to become a gunsmith, you need to go to a gunsmithing school or become an apprentice for an existing gunsmith. But Modern Gun School is an accredited college that also works with veterans in the GI Bill, where you can go and get a degree from accredited college in gunsmithing and then go out and start your own gunsmithing business, which I think is a really great option. Again, throughout my entire life, gunsmiths have always been able to earn a really good living, assuming they have a really strong work ethic. So please check out Modern Gun School. I do have a link in the video description below. This is an original AR-180. This gun was also designed by Eugene Stoner. A lot of people really love the design of this firearm. He designed this after the AR-15 to use stamping so it could be sold to third world countries that could more easily manufacture a stamped gun versus the new technology of machining guns from aluminum, which is what the AR-15 was used, or how the construction was done on the AR-15. So this was designed to be a low-cost alternative to be sold to foreign military markets, and it saw some success out there, but American shooters really fell for this thing. Very simple in its design, and we'll break it apart on the inside of the shack there and show you what it looks like in case you haven't seen it. But clearly it was the inspiration both for the Sig Virtus and also for the Dissent. It's an action that's been copied also by Brownells and other companies. There's Canadian companies that have copied it and things like that because it's a very solid, simple design. I just wanted to break this old girl out just to show her to you because why not? That's part of the fun of collecting firearms, is to be able to break these old girls out of the safe and have some fun with them. All right, I better put her away before I break something. This is a Sig Rattler. It's my baby. I love this 300 Blackout firearm. Obviously, this gun was the inspiration for the Dissent, whether CMMG would admit that or not. You can't deny that the two are related in some ways. Now, I'm not saying it's a copy because clearly it's not, but this gun really set the internet on fire and the gun community as a whole. But when it first came out, the MCX was kind of, people were kind of lukewarm to it, myself included, but it's evolved like many Sig products over time to become one of the best, if not the best, firearms of its type out there currently on the US market. This, again, is my baby. Now, this thing only has a 5-inch barrel on it. It's very, reminiscent of the AR-15 on the lower half. And then on the upper half, it's a new design. It's a short stroke gas piston, where the Dissent is a direct gas impingement gun, but we still maintain the T-handle charging system. Got plenty of videos out there on the Sig Virtus, but I just wanted to show you my Rattler. This one has the old school torpedo can on it. These things they couldn't give away when they were making them. Now that they're no longer in production, everybody wants one because it just looks so right on the Rattler as you see it here. On top, I have the new Primary Arms Micro Prism. This is the 1-power version, and I really love these sights. I've been using them on everything, and this, again, is one gun that I shoot quite a bit. All right, so let's do a little bit of shooting with the Rattler. So let's do a quick magazine test with the gun. let's see what we got here. This is a Lancer magazine. This is a 5.56 magazine. Now, if you're going to run supersonics out of a 300 Blackout firearm, they're going to work typically just fine in a standard 5.56 magazine. If you want to buy a specific 300 Blackout magazine, it'll feed both supers and subs just fine generally, at least in my experience. But because of the ogive on the subsonic bullet, you generally want to use a 300 Blackout specific magazine for those subsonics. All right, I believe this is some Fiocchi ammunition. And go back to that stump of shooting. I'll say this is a little bit less gassy than my Rattler is with its Sig can on it. Very interesting. This is a standard mil-spec magazine, again with supersonics in it. Another one of those PUD rounds. Did hear the round go down range, but I don't think it cycled. It did. That's pretty amazing. It's cycling those extreme PUD rounds that we have out of that ammo can. All right. And these are subsonic Federals out of a 300 Blackout magazine that actually shipped with the gun. Does have the over insertion tab on the bottom, but standard AR-15 A2 type lower and magwell. And this thing is quiet, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and just take my ears off, throw them in the snow. This is just too much fun. I can hear the rounds going pew. And another one of the magazines came with the gun, 300 Blackout specific with subs, Federal. Yeah, perfect function. Even with those PUD rounds from that old ammunition that we found, this gun has been 100% with supers and subs. Now, if you want to run it without a suppressor, you may have to adjust the gas system. As a matter of fact, when we got this gun and we put the Griffin armament can on it, with the subs, we had to give it just a little bit more gas so it would cycle both reliably, even with the can in place. So this gun is set up for use with a silencer. So again, you have that option to tune the gun so it'll run with or without a silencer, depending on how you intend to use it. All right, so real quick, let's take a look at the original AR-180. I'll go ahead and clear it out. I'm not going to go into details to what I'm doing here. I'm just going to take it apart and show you what it looks like on the inside. Because clearly this gun was the design inspiration, once I make a big mess of my messing table here, was the original design inspiration behind the Virtus and then later the Dissent. We have the AR-15 style bolt head locking system, 2 guide rods, 2 recoil springs. Now, this one is going to be a gas piston operation, so it is more like the Sig than the Dissent in that regard, but a very simple design. All right. I want to thank our friends over at Federal for supplying the ammunition to the channel free of charge. They really help us out a lot. Been shooting Federal since I was a kid. Outstanding ammunition, outstanding company. And we're shooting the 223 out of the AR-180 and the 300 Blackout out of the other 2 firearms we have out here today. Let's take a look at the old Sig next. So, the Sig, just like an AR-15, has a takedown pin in the rear. We'll pop that pin out, hinge it open, use the T-handle, draw out the bolt and carrier, and the T-handle. All right, basic field maintenance. Now, you can see here on the recoil system, and this is a constantly evolving design, right? This has gone through many different iterative changes. But currently, there's a pin, a roll pin, running through here holding this end cap on. So in the earlier guns, you could easily take this apart, get the recoil springs, guide rods out. Now that's no longer necessary. This gun can be field maintenance without doing that, but some of us like to be able to take our upper bolt carrier units apart more thoroughly without the use of tools. But this system's completely different than the original design. But that gives you an idea of what it looks like. Again, we have an AR-15 style bolt head, but keep in mind this one does use a short stroke gas piston that taps right here on the face of the carrier that then moves it rearward. Then let's move on to the Dissent. Again, AR-15 style lower. Crack it open. I have a forward charging handle, no T-handle. So I'm going to break that out, pull the bolt and carrier out. No T-handle to worry about. So now if you lay the Dissent next to the Rattler's setup, you'll see they're very similar. The only difference, I mean, there's a lot of differences, right? So you can see that the spring rides further forward on the Virtus design. It's different back here. This system we'll talk more about. We'll do a complete detail strip, show you what it looks like, completely stripped down, talk about each of the individual parts, but you can clearly see the heritage there between the designs and then bringing in the original AR-180 to give you an idea of where it all started. So, very, very interesting design. The biggest difference, this is direct gas impingement, and I love that fact, and Jason loves that fact, because direct gas impingement has a more mild recoil impulse to it than any gas piston gun I've ever shot in my entire life. And that's what makes the Dissent different, among other things, and that's one of the things that really intrigued us the most about it. I've completely taken the Dissent apart well past what you would have to do for regular field maintenance, but I wanted to show you some of the interesting points about the design of the gun. So here's the upper receiver, and on the upper receiver we have a deflector on here that is a synthetic material that's held in place by 2 screws, so it's a replaceable part. Here we have a standard AR-15 barrel. This is a standard AR-15 barrel nut that would be used with a handguard of this type, which has 2 screws that pinch and clamp around the knurling of this nut, okay? And then your charging handle rides in the slots here, so this is a unique handguard. This isn't something you can just, replace with a Midwest Industries or something like that. If you take a look, here we have a pistol-length direct gas impingement gas tube coming out to the gas block. On the underside of the gas block, we have 2 screws holding the gas block in place. On top, here's the tensioning device for the gas adjustment, and this is the gas adjustment screw here. Now, this is an ASR mount system that with the Griffin armament silencer that we're running on the gun right now. This is the standard muzzle device that it comes with. Looks like some sort of a standoff device / blast diverter, but we replaced that with a mount so we could put a suppressor on it because it is 300 Blackout. So all this stuff here is part of this assembly to, with regards to the handguard and stuff like that. This little sled here, this is what the charging handle rides in, but during normal maintenance, you don't need to take the sled out because you have to take the handguard off to get to it. It just sits right in here. All right. So that stuff aside, let's talk about some of the other stuff I think is really, really interesting. So if you take a look at the 2 rods, this is very reminiscent of the original Sig MCX, and this is a superior system. I actually liked this system when Sig was still using it, with the 2 guide rods that you could easily take out for field maintenance. Now, if you take a look at the later versions of the MCX Virtus and the Spear LT, they've made it so it's much more difficult to disassemble your recoil mechanism. Basically, it's not required as part of the regular maintenance, but I like to be able to detail strip like this without tools, and this uses that old system. By that, what do I mean? Well, the original MCX had an end cap much like this, and the recoil rods set inside there, recoil springs right over the recoil rods, and to take them apart, you just kind of twist and pull, and it just comes apart. Again, for simple field maintenance. Now, one point of interest is that this piece, which doesn't appear to be a stressed piece, this piece sets in here between the rods. The rods are in the actual metal, right? So again, it's a non-stressed piece, maybe just to keep the rods in alignment so they won't wiggle around, but it is a 3D printed part, and it doesn't look like a very high-end industrial 3D printer that made this part. I don't know if it's a pre-production thing. I don't anticipate any problems. Again, I'll probably even run without it in there, but I thought I would point that out. So this is the bolt carrier, and the bolt carrier is really interesting because it is a direct gas impingement system, very much like the AR-15. So right where I'm dropping the firing pin, it's going into the hole where the direct gas impingement tube would come off the gas block into the carrier. And this would be where your standard AR-15 carrier key would be. And right here are your 2 vent holes that would vent excess gas. And here's where your standard AR-15 bolt would sit with its piston rings, everything. So unlike the MCX Virtus, where you have a gas piston tapping up here causing carrier tilt, this uses Eugene Stoner's original design where you have an internal piston in here which pushes this straight back into the shoulder and does away with any type of carrier tilt or inclination for the gun to rise under recoil. It reduces it somewhat. I don't know how much, but again, it moves straight in line rearward. It doesn't tap up here and pivot on the fulcrum and cause this to want to shift in the receiver. So I like that. Big fan of direct gas impingement. If you follow the channel, you know that's the case. This is just part of this assembly disassembly. You do have to take the rods out because the rods normally run through here. So if you want to take the bolt out of the carrier, that's where your cam pin would sit. So you do have to take at least this rod out so you can get the cam pin out. Then you can pull your bolt out of the carrier. All right. So let's set those aside. Everything you see here is standard AR-15 fare. That's a standard mil-spec AR-15 firing pin. This is a standard AR-15 bolt. Standard AR-15 extractor, which does have the extra power spring stuff there, so it has a little extra oomph than the original design. Standard cotter pin, standard pin that holds the extractor and the bolt, and a standard cam pin. So all these things can be sourced anywhere should you break apart or want to carry extra parts if this was your go-to firearm. So very interesting. Overall, the design is really impressive. I think it's a neat marriage of technology I already like, big fan of the Virtus type firearms and the AR-18, and I like the fact that they've gone the direct gas impingement route. All right, so let's take a look at the lower really quick. It is a standard AR-15 lower, but it's been modified to work with the Dissent system, the operating system. All right, so this is standard A2 fare with the reinforcements back here, and we'll just start off on the rear. So this is a brace system. The folding mechanism that you see is Midwest Industries, which is a big company, if you haven't heard of them, and this is a standard buffer tube assembly that screws into this folding assembly. Now, even though this is a standard AR-15 A2 lower, it has been modified to work with the Dissent system, which has this 1913 rail system up here, and of course then this surface back here to kind of hold the bolt carrier assembly together when the gun is assembled. You have a screw in the front here, and that holds this rear assembly to the lower receiver, but you can see the threads in there and even the hole in there for the plunger system if you were to use this on the standard AR rifle and put a standard buffer tube on it. But if you did that, it wouldn't work with the Dissent. We have ambi selector lever. The one on the right-hand side is very minimalistic, very low profile. The one on the left-hand side, still minimalistic, but it has a raised surface to it, a little bit easier to get to. CMMG grip housing here that you have a compartment inside the pistol grip. We have a TriggerTech trigger in here. You can see the screws holding it in place. The TriggerTech trigger has about a 4.5 pound trigger pull. On the right-hand side, you can see the standard A2 fencing. We have an extended mag release that sticks up past that fencing. So it's very large and easy to get. I think I mentioned the flat face trigger there, but flat face trigger. And then over on the other side, we have an ambi mag release and then an enlarged ping pong paddle for easier bolt manipulations. All right, standard pins, AR-15 pins, all that good stuff. So a lot of parts commonality with just a standard AR-15. I know our videos can be a little bit long-winded at times, but we're trying to give you as much information as possible about the particular firearm we're talking about. Now, we're really interested in this Dissent, obviously, and so we're trying to give you as much information as we possibly can about the design so you can make an informed decision, because these things are $2,000 MSRP. They're not inexpensive. So let's do a quick field strip of the gun. So the charging handle over here on the left-hand side, and that's the way all of them will ship, I believe. I'm just going to make sure the magazine is out and the chamber is empty. I'm going to let that bolt go home. I'm going to pull the rear pin out like an AR-15, slightly pull back on that charging handle, and pull the bolt and carrier out of the gun. Now, if I want to take the charging handle out, I pull the charging handle rearward to its takedown notch and simply pull it out. This is one of my major points of contention with this gun. When I first got the gun, I assumed it was just like every other gun that has this type of a system, that I could just take it out, put it over here, and make it right-hand charging. Not the case with the Dissent. You have to buy a right-hand charging handle. This one's shipped with the left-hand charging handle, so this isn't going to work. So there's no real reason to take that out for field maintenance unless you plan on switching it to right-hand, and that's going to cost you additional money. The gun does not come with an owner's manual, and it'll come with this card. You scan that with your phone, just open up the camera app. It should take you right to the website, and then they have all the information on the website that you need, and that's just the future. No complaints there. Seen that a lot lately. All right, so we'll set this aside. Now, this is very much like the original MCX in that to fully disassemble it to get the bolt out of the carrier, I'm going to have to take this guide rod, as it's facing me, the left-hand guide rod, and recoil spring out of the gun so I can get the cam pin out. I don't have to take both of them out, but I like the option of being able to do this. So I'm just going to pull back slightly on the spring, rotate that rear cup, control the spring so it doesn't fly off, take the recoil spring off. The guide rod will go forward out of the carrier, and that will open up that slot right there, which will allow me to take my cam pin out. Now I'm going to take the tip of a bullet, take out the cotter pin, take out the firing pin, and then I'm going to push the bolt back to the takedown position, get it lined up, and then just take out that cam pin. It'll pop right out just like that. And then you take your bolt out. It's as far as you need to go for field maintenance. All right? So that's just the basic disassembly for cleaning her up, oiling her up, and going right back out to the range and doing some shooting. So the Dissent has been 100% reliable, even with PUD rounds that we're finding in old ammo cans, which is really surprising. I mean, sometimes it would be so PUD, I didn't think it even kicked the spent case out or pick up a round out of the magazine, yet the gun still ran just fine. Of course, we're running the Explorer 300 on here, the Griffin armament silencer, but the gun will run just fine without the silencer. You just have to tune the gas system for the ammunition that you're going to be using and whether or not you're going to run the gun suppressed or not. Well, I don't recommend running OSS on 300 Blackout subs. That's a whole different video. So the baffled can works great. The gas to the face, almost non-existent on this gun. It's working extremely well. I would say my Rattler is more gassy than this particular setup is, which is really interesting to me. $2,000, not inexpensive, right? So for $2,000 in a pistol format, neat because they want to make it a PDW, but I don't know what it is with CMMG selling these things only as pistols. Make this as a rifle. I think you'll sell more of them. And so maybe they'll do that down the road. I think they're probably going to have to, given the Biden administration's actions. The gun is available in 5.56, 300 Blackout, and 5.7. We've not been able to shoot the 5.56 or the 5.7 version, just the 300 Blackout. The only real ding I would give the gun is if you're wanting to run the charging handle on the other side, you're going to have to go buy another charging handle. That seems like a simple engineering fix, given so many other companies have been able to make a charging handle to go in one side or the other. Yeah, CMMG, if you could do that and give us a rifle version, we'd love you for it. This gun is outstanding. The recoil impulse, I think, is more mild than it is on my Sig Rattler or on my Virtuses with their gas piston setup. I'm a big fan of DI, and this thing runs amazing as a DI gun. Very, very, very much a fan of this gun. All right, guys, if you enjoyed today's video, please consider becoming part of our Patreon family so we can continue to bring you videos like this. There is a link in the video description below. Also, right here on YouTube, you got the little join button underneath the video player you're watching right now. Mash that join button and support us here on YouTube in the age of demonetization. And last but not least, please swing by and check out Copper Custom. Thank you for 14 years of support. We'll talk to you guys soon.